With this, Infiniti goes after Lexus GS, BMW 5, Mercedes E, and a bunch of other tough competitors. The look is absolutely cutting edge. The cabin tech, not quite so much so. The driver assistance, you decide. Let's drive the 2013 Infiniti M56 and check the tech. Now, the first thing I'll tell you about the M56 and its current generation, about 2-3 model years now, is that nothing else looks like this. These shapes and curves are unique in its category. No one's ever going to say, oh, you got a new 5 Series. No, this thing looks totally apart. Inside, though, the cabin tech is a little more long in the tooth. Let's take a look. Okay, you've seen much of what's in this car before. The familiar Infiniti controller, you turn, you push, you jog. 8-inch color LCD, that map style is evolved some, but it's still basically what they've been doing for a handful of years. One thing I forgot, to be honest, in this car, that's a touch screen. I never think to touch it. It's too far away. So I use the controller a lot, but remember, this thing is a touch, and that's often the best way to get on these commands. Now, no matter which of these menu buttons I go to here, one thing you're not going to see: no apps. This is one of the last cars in the premium sector that doesn't have true app support the way so many others are doing these days. It's a dated head unit for that reason alone. By middle of this year, by the time you see this video perhaps, the new Infiniti Q will be out, the Q50, and that promises a completely new head unit. You may need to think about buying one of these until second half of 2013 if you really value the best tech here. I want to mention the voice command in this car, not because it's all that advanced, but it does work well. Here's what I mean. Navigation.
Navigation.
Address.
Address. What?
California.
California.
San Francisco.
Showing the matching.
1.
San Francisco.
Now, what I want you to notice there is how you have to parse it still, which is kind of old school. In other words, one button push for city, another for street. That's old, but the speed of recognition here is very admirable. Now, all these 56 cars, the V8 cars, come with a Bose audio system. We've got an upgrade through the Sport package for some reason that puts Bose 5.1, various types of processing for noise and soundstage, and speakers on the shoulders of the seat, 16 of them around the car. As far as sources go, you've got USB plus iPod, A2DP Bluetooth streaming, satellite radio, optical disc, you're good to go. Now let's look at some of the driver controls in here. This is the only shifter you're ever going to see in this car. One choice only, 7-speed automatic, left side for a shifting gate with this, or if you've got the Sport package, which we do, you get a pair of very long magnesium column-mounted paddles. That's exactly where they should go, and they should be nice and long like that. So pretty much wherever you are, there's a paddle under your fingers, and they don't swing around and change their role and their position. This button right here is what they call DCA, Distance Control Assist. That's basically going to keep you from running into someone ahead of you. The car is always reading and applying the brakes and giving you a warning to keep you from bumping into someone, especially in slower traffic. Here is your cruise control on-off, and this button above it tells you it's adaptive cruise control. I've also got blind spot detection as well as blind spot screw-up intervention. In other words, the car will steer you away if you're about to drift into a car on the left or the right, and do the same thing with lane drift. It has active lane departure technology. Okay, under the hood, welcome to the halls of tradition. This is a V8, and a big one, 5.6 liter, hence the name of the car. That's kind of antiquated these days. I mean, a big displacement V8, unless you're in a car well north of 6 figures, is starting to feel kind of like old thinking. No turbos, no blower, nothing. Just a dual overhead cam 5.6 V8 that gives you 420 horsepower here, 417 foot-pounds of torque. Mucho on both counts. This guy weighs nearly 4,040 pounds, but still gets up to 60 in 4.8 seconds, simply because of that big old motor. MPG is fine. It's 1624. Given the weight of the car and how fast it can move itself, I'm okay with that. Oh, by the way, in Japan, they don't even sell the V8 version of this car. They offer the hybrid as the high-performance version. They're thinking a few years ahead of us. Now, the first thing you notice driving this car is prodigious power. but getting to it, I think in a really responsive way, requires you shift it yourself. I didn't get a lot of satisfaction out of even the sport mode on that mode control dial down here. It still left the transmission too loopy and floaty and hunting. I had to go to the manual gate and then get here on the paddles. Then I more or less got things the way I wanted, but there's still some weird lag in there getting to the power. It feels like turbo lag, which of course it isn't, so I gotta believe it's processor lag. The suspension in the car is not active. It's, you know, springs and rods and bars. As a result, it doesn't do enough to change personality between a comfortable mode and a sport mode, regardless again of where that knob is. One thing I take away from all these Infinitis, especially the big dollar models, is I feel like I'm driving a computer with wheels. They have a very sterile, high-tech feel. I think that's part of what Infiniti's going for. They really want that high-tech message, and there's an awful lot of processed feeling and feedback coming through this car's various interfaces. But it may not be for everybody, especially in this price class and with a major powertrain like this. You may be looking for a more street-fighting car. Okay, let's price this guy. A 2013 M56 rear-wheel drive is about 62 grand. Admittedly well equipped, but not fully CNET style. On top of that, you've got to add about $3,000 for the tech package, which is all that driver assistance stuff and adaptive cruise. Another $5,600 for the sport package, sport brakes, sport suspension, four-wheel steering, and that's also how you get Bose 5.1. And I hate when they link dissimilar stuff in a package like that. This car is an easy $71,000 ticket to go CNET style. You could push it to 75, and that's a little bit of a tough piece to bite off for the Infiniti brand.